Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello guys, welcome back to my YouTube video. Okay, before I start, I apologize to you all because there is any voice of people who recite Al-Quran. Yeah, of course, this month is Ramadan, so many people doing religion activities. Okay. In this video, I will give you different things with last videos or previous videos, because in the previous videos I always talk about some phonology, I mean the meaning, the definition, and I explain to you all. But in this video I will analyze some videos about the phonological term. Okay, I hope you enjoy in this video and check it out. Okay, in this video I will analyze about phonological term of the video that was uploaded by CNBC account entitled How Covid-19 Testing Works. But I'm gonna go first about who CNBC is. CNBC is an American paid television business channel news that is owned by NBC Universal Worldwide News Group, a division of NBC Universal. CNBC primarily carries financial and business-themed documentaries and reality show. Okay, let's go to the analyze about phonological term. I hope you enjoy.
There are three types of COVID-19 tests: genetic, antibody, and antigen. But how do they work, and what's the difference?
We've heard sort of test, test, test. What does it mean? What are we actually testing?
Okay, from the cut of the video, I found some phonological rules part strengthening from word test, because in the first stressed syllable there is sound H, then make the word pronoun more strange, like test. Next.
COVID-19 is a disease caused by the SARS-CoV-2 virus, which stands for Severe Acute Respiratory Syndrome Coronavirus 2. It's related to the almost 50 other coronavirus species. And right now there are over 630 SARS-CoV-2 tests commercially available or in development. Molecular tests are the gold standard for COVID-19 testing and are the ones you've probably been hearing about. They're both the most reliable and the kind that was first developed. They involve looking for genetic material from the virus itself.
You need to get some of the virus and some cells, and that's done by putting a swab right to the back of somebody's nose and taking a scrape.
Okay, from the cut of the video, I heard about similarities or similitude in the word caused. When non-native speakers heard it, they will think that the word that the speakers say is caused, because it heard like same word, caused with cause. It heard like one word, but when native speakers, I mean like they will find confused, because this two word is sounds a little bit similar or same. Okay, next.
Scientists take that sample and run it through a process called amplification. If SARS-CoV-2 is present in the sample, it's not enough to accurately study. So this step copies the virus's genetic material over and over until there are millions of times more of it, and it can be conclusively identified. The technique most tests use to do that amplification is called a polymerase chain reaction, or PCR, which has been around since 1985. So it's not a new technique, but to do it with a new type of virus, you need that new virus's genetic sequence. And on January 12, China sequenced SARS-CoV-2 and released that data publicly, which meant that scientists had all they needed to make a test for it.
As soon as you know the viral RNA, you can develop a test to it. So the first plus is you can develop the test very quickly, almost overnight.
And that happened with SARS-CoV-2. Tests were developed within days of the virus's sequencing in January.
The question that I think everybody has on their mind is, if it's that easy to develop a molecular test, why are we still talking about inadequate testing?
Okay, at the cut of the video, I found a deletion from the word scientist and polymerase. Word scientist, there is a C, but the C is didn't read, so become scientist. And the second is polymerase. Y in here is not also read, so deleted Y and pronounce polymerase. Okay, the deletion is scientist and polymerase. And also intonation from the Rangarajan some part is too fast. So when non-native speakers heard about he speak, so they will find difficulties to understand about that said. Okay, next.
Why are we still talking about inadequate testing? Development of the test is just one part of it. The whole system that needs to be in place to be able to receive these tests, use them, and so on, is a much larger issue that goes beyond just the actual physical test. So even though every country and leaders of every country have promised volumes of tests and all these things, often they're looking at it from a perspective of, I have access to XYZ manufacturer and so many tests and so on. But it takes a lot more than just the actual test.
In the United States, we're still working to catch up when it comes to getting sufficient tests out there.
But hundreds of these kinds of tests exist. Some of the biggest producers include companies like Roche, Thermo Fisher, LabCorp, and Abbott, as well as the CDC.
If you think you have COVID-19 right now and you have symptoms, you should take the molecular test. And if you're in the symptomatic stage, you should certainly have virus that's enough there to detect.
And there are also genetic tests that use this same basic process, but in a miniaturized form.
What we're seeing now is some extensions to that.
Okay. In the cut of the video, I found again about the deletion. For example, whole. The W is deleted and the pronoun whole. This word will pronounce just whole without W. Okay, and the second example is even though. Even though I think the word the G and H is delayed, so just pronounce like even though like this. Okay, and in the cut of the video I also find about word stress in the word kind. The stress is in the first syllables. That is kind, k sound is stressed. Okay, next.
Kind of test, which is taking all of the machinery that you would normally use in a lab and kind of using a miniaturized version, so that instead of in a lab we can look at thousands of samples at a time, it's doing it just on small numbers of samples, maybe even one at a time.
One such rapid test that has received significant attention is a SARS-CoV-2 test made by Abbott to work with the company's existing ID Now system, which was already being used to test for other infectious diseases.
ID Now is really set up for point of care, right at the site of the patient. That instrument is designed to use, for example, a nasal swab or oral swab, and then directly put the swab into the instrument and perform the test.
It's meant to be used at urgent care clinics, physicians' office labs, emergency departments, and retail settings, and tests one sample at a time in 5 to 13 minutes, which is great if you're one person needing results quickly, but much less efficient if you have a large group of people who all need to be tested.
Okay, from these videos, I think non-native speakers will find difficulties because all the speakers speak is fast intonation, so we cannot heard clear intonation or pronunciation. So for me, I think for you all that still learning or studying about English language, how to pronounce, how to understand about what they say, I beg you to use some subtitle, so you can learn from the subtitle what they said, and you time by time will easily understand about what they said, because they said with fast speech. Okay, next.
And there are a couple of studies that have yet to be peer-reviewed, but suggest ID Now's accuracy may be as low as 48%, something that Abbott disputes. The more standard lab-based counterpart to Abbott's ID Now system is the company's M2000 real-time system.
A laboratory instrument, you can process many more samples. For an M2000 platform, run it at optimal efficiency for a 24-hour period of time, you could analyze 470 specimens. So much higher throughput.
So it's not like one size fits all, and just because there's one test that seems on the surface of it that they are going to solve every problem, they're not.
The other kind of test that you've likely heard about is an antibody test. When a harmful virus is introduced into your body reacts. Studying that reaction is another way to detect SARS-CoV-2. Symptoms or not, if your body has been fighting the virus, there should be evidence of that in the form of antibodies. This kind of test uses your blood instead of a swab.
Okay, in the last video, in the previous videos, I learned about the sound. For you non-native speaker, be careful to say the sound. Most of you speak without carefully, so you say it, for example, word three. Most of non-native speaker will say tree, but the right pronunciation is 3. So the sound is like your tongue in behind your teeth, like this. 3. And the second example is 1,000. Word thousand is also the sound, so you must be careful with the sound, because if you say it with fast pronunciation and you is still learning about how to pronounce, you will say it wrong pronunciation, and native speaker can understand what you said. So be careful with word 3,000 and others. That is contains of the sound. Next.
Test uses your blood instead of a swab from your throat.
So this is not directly measuring the presence of the virus in your nose or nasal cavity. What you're doing is measuring through a finger prick or through a blood draw. You're trying to say, is an antibody response present in the particular individual?
There are 2 types of antibodies that are produced after an infection. One, IgM, shows up in about a week and then tapers off, and the second, IgG, shows up after about 2 weeks and sticks around for much longer. This adds to the difficulty in making a consistently accurate antibody test.
You could be either too early in the infection for the IgM to pick up, or you could be in the bit between your IgM and your IgG being detected. Or you could be somebody who isn't making those particular antibodies and won't be detected at all.
We don't know enough of this particular virus and kinetics and so on, whether it lasts a month, 6 months, a year, 2 years, we don't know that.
All of this means that it's tricky to develop these tests, especially during a pandemic when they're needed much more quickly than usual.
In the case of
Okay, in the cut of the video, I found some weakening or lenition, or some word that is become weaker than usual, just like word or. But the native speaker will say or. The r sound is a little bit weaker than the o sound, like or. Okay, next.
the IgG test, this was an unbelievably compressed development cycle. Under normal circumstances, our development cycles are years. In this case, the IgG test was developed in the span of about 30 days. So how do you get a supply chain, determine methods to be able to scale and ramp to go to literally millions of tests? Because we could have the best test in the world, and if we can't produce it, it isn't getting the job done.
Abbott says it will ship nearly 30 million tests this month and will have the capacity to ship 60 million in June. We also don't yet know what the consequences of having SARS-CoV-2 antibodies are. It could mean a resistance or immunity to COVID-19, or it could mean neither.
We know from other coronaviruses that it is very likely that as soon as you have gone through an infection, you will also acquire immunity. But this still, nevertheless, has to be proven over time.
The antibody tests become...
In the cut from the video, I found some phonological rules, kind of assimilation. Assimilation is phonological process in which a sound changes to resemble a nearby sound and can occur both forward and backward. In the video, I heard about word unbelievable, but in the unbelievable is created like unbelievable, but the prefix un become because assimilation, and so the assimilation in this video is word unbelievable or unbelief, that from word unbelief become because assimilation. Okay, next.
Useful on a population level later to find out how many people were likely infected in the first place. They're not really a great way of going, you as an individual are okay to go back to work, or you're protected or something, because that's just based on stuff we just don't even know about yet.
And the FDA recently tightened its guidelines for companies wanting to sell antibody tests after initially allowing them to be sold without evidence they actually worked. Ongoing research into these early tests, which has not yet been peer-reviewed, has shown a troubling lack of accuracy. But there are more than 120 antibody tests already on the market.
The one we will be marketing or distributing is a pinprick test, which can be taken and results received in about 15 minutes without an instrument. Having said that, it is not approved by the FDA per se.
But we also know that some people don't make any antibodies. People can test negative, so they don't.
Okay, from the cut of the video, I found again about weakening or lenition from word not. The native speaker will say with the th sound is weaker, like not. Yeah, that is weakening from word not. Okay, that's all about analysis phonological term with video about COVID-19. I think that's all for me. If there are any mistakes, please forgive me. I hope you enjoy with this video, and thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and leave a comment in the column comment. Thank you guys. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Bye.